not, but he's saying anything more than 24 inches would require, would kick you back to ARB.
Yeah, and I had asked Dennis, I forgot to mention for sure, he's the one who came up to the.
You do not have to give me credit.
No, I give you credit, I give you.
I was gonna
credit.
say, it looked very professional when I saw the language. I was like, wow, that looks like something a lawyer had done. All right, so we okay, now that language is in there now?
No,
It's not there, now. You just sent it
I was
out.
waiting for the blessing of,
All right, so let's- We're okay with, all right, let me just go, let me get the sense of the board. 30%, everybody good?
Yes.
2 feet protrusion, everybody good?
Yes.
And the other thing that I want to clarify for everybody,
And they.
oh, the 80 cubic feet, everybody good?
Yes.
All right, the other thing I want to clarify is that we've been talking about the idea that the 30% rule applies to the sides and the back of the building. Just to clarify, it applies to any part of the building that faces the street. So if you have a house that's on a corner and you basically, the side of your house is visible from the street, it would also apply to that side that faces the street.
Well, that's something that I should,
We're not,
one of the words
Doesn't have to
that
be visible, just has to face it.
face, the planning board didn't like the visible, they wanted facing.
Okay.
Because it's
I
essentially,
think if it's the same
in
thing,
a
that's
very
fine.
dense, like, village like Nyack, essentially every part of every house is visible
Okay,
from some street somewhere.
If it's a corner lot and you've got, the side that's not the, it's not the front that is facing a public street, the 30% wouldn't apply there.
I'm down with one.
You'd have to treat it the same way as the front.
all right, so that doesn't, that's what the law says. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that because we were talking about in terms of front and side, but it's really just street facing and not street facing. All right, can I get a motion to put this on the agenda for a resolution, get a resolution drafted?
Second.
All right, oh, does anybody from does anybody want to speak about the ARB scope of review? Nobody really? Not even like a, all right, all in favor of, the resolution?
You're amending.
Yes, amended.
We're amending the draft that's dated.
Yes,
okay,
the
you're clear.
100 cubic feet in the paragraph 2 is going to be reduced to 80 cubic feet. I don't have the language that I drafted earlier, but essentially paragraph 1 is gonna have 2 exemptions. One will be sides that are not facing a public street or road. No, it's the one about the protrusion, so. We've already talked about the 30%, I think everyone understands that. The second aspect is the new aspect is any protrusion that is less than 24 inches. Is it 24 inches or greater you want to be subject to ARB or?
Right, sticks out more.
That's one of the optimists or pessimists, so.
So protrusions that are less than 24 inches.
4 inches or less are not subject.
24 inches or less will not be subject to ARB.
Right, but it's together, it's either, it's both of them.
Right.
Wait.
The language I sent you by email. That's what we're going with.
What's your clarification has to do with if it's either or, is that the
Let
idea?
me, I can pull my email, I'll take it 2 seconds, since you're making a motion.
All right, the question that you're asking is, what if it's less than 30%?
But you have 25 inch protrusion ARB. You gotta go the
Okay,
ARB.
then that's, I think, what we want.
Yeah, let me, I think you understand that. But we'll just-
All right, so do we have a sense that we understand what, yeah, I think you know what we're.
I got it right here, you ready? You ready for it?
Well, I don't think does he need to hear? it?
No,
Just take it from him when he gives it to you.
I'm gonna draft them.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you're
So
gonna,
here it is, here are the example. The change elevation is not facing a public street or road. So long as the change is 1, total less than 30% of the square footage of the changed elevation on the roof. And do not protrude in whole or in part more than 24 inches, or it's gonna be less than 24 inches away from the exterior elevation of the building. If it changes.
okay, and then we're also changing the 100 feet to 80.
Yeah, so the-
Okay,
I would change that, I would say is more than, less than 24 or less. In other words, if it's 24 inches, that's okay. If it's less than 24 inches, then 23.5 is
Okay, so 24 inches or less
or less.
will be exempt. 24 inches or less will be exempt, folks.
All right. That is all by way of articulating the resolution. All in favor of the resolution? Okay, so that passes, so we'll be on the next, there'll be a resolution on this matter for the next meeting. Can I get a motion to end the public hearing? All in favor? The public meeting is now closed. That's it for our public hearings. Okay, that was a lot of
I have to say
process
that
we
this
did
is
today.
historic because we started in 2007 on that particular.
It took this board of trustees
That's
to
right.
finally bring this to the finish line of articulating ARB review. That's definitely what will be prominently displayed on my obituary. This is what I accomplished as mayor. All right, so happy to have that done. All right, do we have department reports? Can we get police department? We don't have any public report of the police department. Village administrator.
Playground is getting built down Memorial Park. The different play pieces are installed. The surfacing, the safety surfacing has yet to be installed underneath it, but if you want to walk down through there, you can see what it's gonna look like. It looks like,
When will it open? When will the playground and the splash pad open? Will it be open for Memorial Day?
it's highly likely to be open.
Nice.
Yes.
That'd be great for kids.
That's been the goal all along, but we'll see, because the safety surface has to be installed. And everybody needs to be satisfied.
Many people were asking.
Yeah, we've got a lot of those questions.
I'm sure.
How's the planting going?
So the seeding of the lawn began today. If you look at it now, you'll see it has this kind of aqua blue color to it. It's called hydro seed. The grass seed is kind of mixed in this kind of nutrient rich goo, which helps to keep it wet and make it stick to the ground. It has a good spread across the ground. So that process began today. It's rather laborious because it requires a lot of waters. They had to fill up their tanker truck several times over at the water department and spray it out. The next step will be to install the village's hoses and sprinkler systems to cover the area and keep it watered so that the new grass can come up.
All right,
I want to note also that we had a good meeting with the Parks Commission, the Parks Conservancy, the Pollinator Pathway Project, and others and Andrew DeVito was there actually from the Parks Commission to talk a little bit about some of the changes in the park. And the board has discussed this before. We showed you a diagram, locations for planting trees that would help to provide shade in key areas of the park where it makes sense to have trees. So the group reviewed those tree locations again, added a few sites. I'll come back to you with another diagram so you understand what the proposal is. We're looking forward to putting some more trees in the park. It's along the lines of what we talked about before, but with a few more spots. So it was a good meeting. The group reviewed that matter and several others and had a lot of good ideas about it.
Can I say something? Okay, so I was approached last week. I was approached about a week or 2 weeks ago by members of the VFW, the building, and they said that they have a problem with the fact that the boat camp is no more. Because some of their older members, they have a problem, and the word about Memorial Day, getting down the steps to the ceremony. And I said to them, just send us a proposal of what you were. They were talking about maybe a asphalt path around so to allow people with walkers and wheelchairs to get down there. I haven't received anything. So, I mean, it might be new, but if I get something, then I'll forward it to you. So I don't know if it's still possible to do that.
So every year we coordinate closely with the Legion around Memorial Day festivities. And a lot of people show up for that event. This year, we'll have to do a little bit differently because so much of the grassy area is fenced off. The bottom, typically they set up 100 chairs or more at the bottom of the steps there. and have their cannon and other kind of amenities there. It's gonna have to be at the top of the steps this time. We'll work together on that.
The top of the steps.
Yeah.
But those are the memorial steps. It's a really important part of the park. The goat path, what we call the goat path, is being reseeded and turned back into lawn. Precisely because it's not a safe walking path and hasn't been, it's just eroded kind of gully. So we're hoping to divert the pedestrian traffic over properly to the stairs, which are actually designed for that. People can descend the stairs into the park. And the kind of the grandeur of those steps and the memorial aspect can be enjoyed by people coming into the park. The new pathway from over by the driveway, the basketball court, is exactly, if you're in a wheelchair, you want to come in along that newly paved path, which is precisely for ADA access.
For the splash pad.
Right, coming in.
Well, it comes up by the basketball court, from the parking lot.
That's what that path, that's why we spent $150,000 on that, is to get people in wheelchairs.
So I have a question, because I thought, maybe it was just a dream I had, but I thought that there was going to be some parking allowed for the handicap parking on that side, no?
In the driveway to the park.
Mhm.
That's an idea which has been discussed, but has not been formalized into a plan.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because I feel very strongly that.
Because
I mean-
it has to be accessible for people that need that assistance, so that's why, I'm sorry.
No, I'm agreeing with you that, I do not understand, like, right now, I understand why we do not allow, people to drive into Memorial Park, because we're trying to fix the lawn, and we don't want people driving around and stuff like that right now. The idea to me was that we were discouraging people from driving into Memorial Park because we were going to, at some point, get rid of some of the asphalt, particularly the asphalt on the eastern side by the waterfront side, and leave the parking spots that are across on the northern side, across from the basketball court, leave those, because those could be for handicap spaces, as well as maybe a couple of like half-hour only spaces. For a mom coming down, doesn't want to have to take a kid across the pathway, they could just park there and then use the playground. But we've closed everything off, and now there's really not any imminent change to the asphalt that we'd be grassing over any of the parking spaces. So in my mind, I mean, this is what I would suggest to all of you. When the lawn is done and it's in, and we're ready to reopen it, I think we reopen parking in the park. And let people park down there, allocate sufficient spaces for handicap spaces, and then just, let them, I think what we want to do is close off a little bit of it so that people don't. But the problem was people would go down, look for a parking spot, there's no parking spot, and they have trouble turning around.
Mhm.
So maybe we create, a no parking, a turnaround, like a loading zone that people could turn around in. We need to have some cars down there because we have events down there and they gotta bring in trucks. We don't wanna have it all be, you okay?
I guess.
Okay, this is cool.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Assuming the safe return of our village administrator, we can turn to, the village clerk's report. But what does everybody think about that? Are we, because I think we should, we close that off and there's that big sign, no parking that, and I understand why we don't have the parking. I will say when it gets to it, I think it should be put inside, it should be metered the way the marina is metered. Not like, because what happens is people, I used to go to the park in the morning with my son, and there'd be 10 cars parked there at 8 AM. For the people that work here in the village, they would park down there because it's free. So I don't think we should have free parking there. I think it's actually very valuable parking, so we should make sure we increase the motility, that we move cars in and out. Let people come down there, use the park, get in the car and leave. But I think we should do that once we reopen the park. I mean, we could do it. Do you want to do it now? Reopen the playground?
I think that needs to be rolled out in
Yeah.
a way. The reason why I wasn't
Yeah, I either of us
involved
were
when
here.
that gate was put there, but it has been closed for a while. And the logic was that with a pedestrian bridge, there's plenty of parking in the marina, and the paved area would be open for whatever ride bikes, scooters, just run around. So if we're gonna open that gate, we need to make sure that people are aware that there's a change in use, and there's gonna be cars circulating, which is fine, that's what it's designed for.
I don't see a lot of people using it like using the asphalt. Like, I don't see it being used all that much.
I'm not saying it. I'm just saying that the fence went up long before our new project started.
While we're talking about the park, I did get an inquiry from, about the skate park, that there might be some repair work that needs to be done on part of the skate park.
We do have,
Specialized work.
yes, I'm looking for affordable contractors. I've gotten 2 quotes on the cracks. They're $12,000 and $14,000, so we keep our shopping, because they're just minor cracks.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't looked
Gets a
at it.
lot of use.
I haven't noticed the cracks when I've been doing my skateboarding down there, so I haven't picked up on it personally. But I've been
We'd like to
shredding.
have a perfect skateboard park with no cracks at all, but it's not perfect right now.
Well, we could set it for maintenance at a period of time, because maybe you don't want to repair these, then a new one pops up in 6 months, and, you know, you do them all once fell swoop. All right, anything else?
I'm just mentioning also that the Broadway sidewalk project is going to be coming back. The construction company is expected to start next week. We've done public notices. There's, just to describe the project, there's 2 areas of repair. One is at the corner of First Avenue and North Broadway by the condos on the east side. That section of sidewalk, for reasons that I don't want to get into right now, is deteriorating, aging too quickly. So we're gonna put new concrete there. And then if you go way down by the Piermont Creamery on the south end of Broadway, there's a section of the sidewalk which is not draining the way it's intended to. It forms a puddle. We don't want to ice patch and liability from that. So there's 2 areas of repair.
A repair of the stuff we did last year.
Right, 2 areas of repair. And then there's an area of new sidewalk which will run across the front of Key Bank, those 2 corners, and then include the corner in front of the YMCA and their stone steps there. Those are the limits of the intended project. We're still checking some pricing, making sure it all fits in, but it looks like it will.
Okay.
And so that'll be that for that project.
Can I ask you a question that came up in the business council? I remember we had I think it was a conversation in a public meeting about window boxes for the trees. About the wrought,
You mean the
wrought
tree
iron
guards?
tree guards, like the wrought iron tree guards, but they're decorative and ornamental and look nice and whatnot. Did we ever, you just
Yes.
drop that or what
Yeah,
happened?
there are
Price
several installed on South Broadway, on the tree pits on South Broadway by the Village Pizza, and going south to the Strawberry Place,
Okay,
and over on the other side of the street. And there are a couple installed on the Bird Street new sidewalk next to Marcy Decker's building there, on the side street. We have 2 there. Not every tree pit is suitable for a tree guard. They have to be able to allow for door swing.
yeah.
That if the tree is too close to the curb, we can't fit a tree guard there. So there's some considerations that go into their suitability for specific sites. But where possible, we've installed them and they look pretty nice.
Okay, I'd like to see, you know, if there's more places we can do them. If it was a budget thing, I wasn't sure if it was a budget thing, that we just ran out of money.
No, it's included. It just doesn't make sense everywhere.
Okay, well, can we put something instead of the wrought iron, instead of the guards? Is there something decorative that we could put in some of those boxes?
There's
Just from a beautification
There's
perspective?
definitely other options we can look at.
I think we have to start thinking about some downtown beautification for purposes of, you know, shining up the village a little bit.
And I want to recognize there's a couple of businesses on North Broadway which do a beautiful job of putting plantings in tree pit boxes. And it's really great to see that the village isn't maintaining those, they're privately maintained and they're really beautiful.
Would some of the wrought iron, would that, wood, nice wood, and you know, by the curb, people open the door, so it wouldn't damage that much as opposed to a wrought iron. Would that,
It
and
depends.
maybe it has to be replaced more often.
It's not the material, it's literally just like the door swing. It really depends on the site. I can walk with you if you want to see specifically what designs are available.
All right,
I might want to walk with you guys.
Sure, I'd be happy to do a sidewalk.
anything else?
I have a question. So And thank you, because I sent you a, picture of a big pole that was up by, Grace Church in Franklin, North Franklin, that they patched up. So I walk a lot, and, my question is, there are some sidewalks that are really, really horrible. And now, is that the ownership of the homeowner?
Yes.
So I know that, you know, we have a lot to do and all of that. So what happens? Because I know that, I mean, how are we kind of taking care of that? Or
So-
how are you being made aware of the horrible sidewalks?
There are sidewalks in the village which are hazardous.
Better word.
And they do belong to the property owners. And when there's a trip and fall and a notice of claim, it gets referred to the property owner. And they're liable for it. And not a substantial number of property owners have had to defend themselves and have their insurance policies have to pay out with medical bills. That happens, and that's a risk that we've talked about publicly and the property owners are very increasingly aware of. There's a number of sidewalks which the village has been able to fund improving because we've got external funds. And those projects are always, they're always limited to the areas where the funder or the village chooses to spend that money. And so we've been spending a lot of money on sidewalks, but they haven't gotten to every single place where they're needed. And property owners routinely repair their own sidewalks. And you could pull a permit from the building department. The village board recently reduced, I think close to almost nominal. The fee for the building permit, which is per linear foot of sidewalk to make it more
Right.
affordable. Because we want to encourage people to fix their sidewalks. And we've had some good debate here in the village board over sidewalk designs and the use of old stone and stuff like that. But people are fixing their sidewalks routinely in the village. And they're also a liability risk for property owners.
Okay, so I guess I thank you for all of that. Is there a way to be proactive before someone slips and falls?
Yeah, so the
Um,
building inspector.
So, yeah, because I don't want to be one of those people. I'd rather, or I don't want to see anybody else do that. I'd rather it be addressed before, you know, somebody has an accident. So,
Legally, when we are notified in writing of a hazard, we have to issue a violation of the property owner. But until we get that written notice, we don't go out and survey and look for the violations
Okay.
and violate, because as soon as we see it, we're gonna impose a rather substantial repair costs on that property owner.
okay,
So it
so,
hasn't been a village policy to survey systematically and issue violations to property owners. That, I think probably past boards have talked about that and it seemed draconian. So,
We did put 35,000 in the budget for sidewalk repair, which was thought of that it would be for residential areas as a way of doing some sort of cost share with building owners. But if there is something that's truly dangerous,
and it has.
then just send an email to
Yeah,
to
you can-
Andy
Doug could just send you an email.
And
let
give
you
the
know
address,
where it
yeah.
is.
and then put us on notice and then we'll cite the building on.
yes, no, that's within anybody's power to do that. We will
Okay,
definitely force a violation. If there's a violation there, which presumably there would be if you notice something.
and in conjunction with that, there's a lot of shrubs or like, you know, but that's covering half the sidewalks as well.
That's also a violation.
So that is the same sort of process to
Yes.
send something with where that
Yep,
is.
so you're welcome to
Just
flag
ahead
that.
of-
And to the extent code enforcement is able, which is substantial, there will be violations issued and the hedges will get trimmed and
Okay,
for a while until they screw up again.
okay. Thank
I'll
you.
send many pictures to Andy.
But there are definitely some chronic
Yeah.
abusers there.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Joe, Richard, did Bob just, you just did the public hearing, say, keep them here.
Oh, yeah.
You here for something else or just the
No,
public?
it's just enthralled.
Who can blame me, my friend?
Sitting there, so
Who can blame me? I'm sorry, Bob,
So sorry.
we got to it quick, but
Joe, can I make one other?
yeah.
I have by the way, our sustainability
Do you need Bob?
coordinator, Marcy and her team are just doing a great job.
You know,
And they're literally making it rain
Thank
money.
you, Bob. Good night.
They're getting grants.
I call it Marcy money now. But we have a number of small projects lined up with the DPW, some energy efficiency upgrades, which we talked about before. One idea that they'd like to move forward with is to use part of a state grant to relieve the permit fees on heat pump installation. So when you go to replace your HVAC with a heat pump, which is more energy efficient, instead of having the normal building department permitting fee, use our sustainability money to offset those fees or waive them. And I think it's a good idea. The village has initiatives right now to the purchase of electric vehicles, the purchase of heat pumps. The more that they can log as occurring this year, the closer we get to eligibility for the next round of grants. And so an incentive like waiving the permit fee on a heat pump and such as
Because we need to get a certain number installed.
right. And they're not even that many, it's like 10 or something qualifies you for the next
Yeah,
grant.
let's do it.
So I
Who's
wanted to,
got the money?
so we have,
Well, it's just we're waiving fees, we're not putting money out there.
Yeah, but
we would use the sustainability funds from NYSERDA, or the Clean Energy Communities. She's proposing a $5,000 kind of heat pump fee waiving fund, which would get us a certain number of free heat pump permits for people who want to install them.
Wait, we're funding, don't we get, is the permit fee for us?
Yeah, so the grant would pay,
Pay people to pay us.
no,
no.
Okay.
no, would enable us to cover the cost of the permit fee that a homeowner would otherwise have to
We
pay.
waiving the fee.
Right, waiving the fee,
Okay.
but cover that cost back to the building department, so they don't actually lose money.
Well, we would still get the money.
Right. From the
So we're paying
grant,
ourselves.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry if I made that too complicated.
No, we're basically saying you don't have to pay us, we'll pay ourselves, but for
Right,
internal accounting purposes, we're not taking the money out of the building department, we're paying the
Right.
building department out of the grant.
right,
That's fine.
okay.
Everybody okay with that? We want to try to get more grants, more grants,
So you
more
have to
grants.
do-
Let's give them the number for that, right?
No, I just need to go to side this.
Oh,
You came
This is the
prepared,
purpose?
didn't you?
Which you're so assuming we were gonna sign, we were gonna agree to this.
here,
How dare you make that, these assumptions?
That's smiling.
Are we that predictable? What else you got ready for
This
us
is a
here?
little bit like, you know, the race to the moon back in the sixties, like.
There's money out
this
there.
village
You gotta get
is-
the money.
Is
Yeah.
trying to position itself for the next level of grants as quickly as we can.
Andy has a question. So we're allotting about $5,000. How many grants or applications will that cover?
I love that question and I don't know the answer.
Okay,
I'm guessing probably like 20 or something like that.
okay. So we're putting that up there, like limited
Yeah.
amount
Right.
to
It's
try
a
to.
race for that.
First 20 applications,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
First served, yeah.
Just, well, remember, we gotta get the housing thing done for the state.
Yeah.
We gotta get that done, like that, we gotta get on that list, that's how we're gonna get grants, we don't get grants. If you're not on that list, you don't get grants from the big grants.
Yeah.
Alright, anything else from the village administrator? Anything from the village clerk? So you gotta make something up, just so you have. Welcome, Linda, it's good to have you aboard. All right, old business. Now, I know we have issues relating to some of the land use issues that are continuing old business. I would say we've had conversations individually about those in the last, this has to do with the waterfront district, has to do with the DMU two, has to do with some of the issues that I think are on the board for next week or next meeting.
For the May 23rd meeting, we've already set public hearings for the veterinarian's office
Okay,
in the downtown and for the lot line of changes and mergers policy amendment, which we talked about a couple times in this board. Those public hearings have both been noticed and the draft laws will be reposted and so on, so you have that. The planner has done some more work, I think, on the lot line adjustment one, maybe Dennis.
No, I think the veterinary.
The veterinarian.
He came up with a list of
restrictions.
Yeah.
Some adjustments on that one have been based on the comments from the trustees. And so those two public hearings are scheduled. The other item which the mayor had asked for was an actual draft of DMU two zone amendment concept, because right now we have it in a memo, just bullet points, but drafted up for the board to decide if this is a final version that you'd like to have a public hearing on. So that,
And same thing, we need the same thing for the waterfront, to change the numbers on the waterfront zone.
Can we do this, can we do a public hearing on next meeting? I mean, is it too late to?
it's too late, we don't have the draft laws to use to set that.
Okay,
hearing.
so let's have a plan to have the draft laws for waterfront and DMU two at the next meeting, and then the next meeting we'll set a public hearing to get that done, so it'll be done 2 meetings from now.
I think
Andy,
my village
It
attorney.
might be, Andy, you just sent me the DMU two
Right,
materials, so I can start working on that tomorrow. I don't know if I have anything yet for the waterfront.
The waterfront's, yeah, it's
I mean,
simple,
it's like,
simple.
resend it to me if you already
Yeah.
did, I don't.
I've written up something that I sent to the board that they looked at individually, not collectively.
I think it's changing of some numbers, it's
Yeah.
very simple, but I don't know if I've seen it
And
yet.
we're gonna continue to, because I've had discussions with some of the board members about trying to, rather than do it all up here, we're trying to, okay, here's what we've agreed to, here are the numbers, and then you can get it drafted up. We'll give you a very clear explanation as to what we want. So they'll probably have that next week.
Sooner I get it.
Yeah,
sooner I can get it.
That's here early next week, yeah.
there's another item that might make sense to prioritize, and that is the discussion around the lot line, the merger resulted in a discussion and the village attorney's insight into the consideration of perhaps the need for floor area ratio law for the
Limitation for
residential-
the,
for the residential area.
Yeah.
To address this question of when you create a merged larger lot, how big a building can you put there? So it might make sense to spend a little time chatting about that, and it might make sense to prep that because you got a hearing on the lot line question.
I think what we'll do is, let's put that on the list of things to have a conversation about in the next 2 weeks. That's when we come to the meeting, we have sort of like, we can move the ball forward on that. If we have to, we'll just continue the public hearing on the lot line issue and pass it simultaneously with the
Right.
FAR, incorporation of FAR for the single family.
Right.
And so we'll just connect the two. But I think it's important for us to get I really just wanna, I wanna get these things off the table, so we can put new things on the table. And that would be let's get the DMU two in the waterfront. I will get you, here's what the board has sort of individually come to a conclusion about, and then we can draft it, and then we can look at it the next meeting. All right, we're good on that?
So push the FAR drafting out to June.
That's fine, that's fine. It's like May 9th, so June's not that far away.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on old business? Any new business? Communications? No letters this week?
There'll be some, I mean, not in time for this agenda,
Okay,
but there'll be things for next week.
all right, do we have a list of public comment? Rosa?
I just wanna read the Matthews.
Let me just say, as you approach, I'm not taking away from your time, that I know, we have several people here who have generally come here to talk about the Palestinian ceasefire issue. There are several of them. I see Skylar, I hear Rhea. Oh, I think you just said, wait, you're not Rhea. Did they just call Rhea?
Reba.
Oh, Reba, I'm sorry, Reba. Okay, so two of you, but I want to just say and apologize to Skylar and to Rhea about the fact that they had emailed, I had said to them at a meeting, if you'd like to talk to me about this, not in a meeting context, but just sit down, have a cup of coffee and talk about it, I'd be happy to do that. They then emailed me to meet with them. I emailed them back, but because our email system is this Fakakta system that we are replacing soon. Okay, they didn't get my email. And so then they wrote back and said, we haven't heard back from you. And so I realized that was what's happening, so then I emailed them from my personal account, my business account, which then apparently from an email I just got from Skylar, apparently went to their spam account. So they didn't get that one either. So they wrote me again saying, being justifiably upset that I had not responded to any of these emails. So I emailed them again. This one they finally got. So I do apologize for our terrible email system and for all the thoughts that have run through your mind about my not taking that request seriously, which I do take it seriously. So we will do that soon. I want to let you know that I've not taken away from your time, but I did want you to know that we take this, we take the fact that you this issue that you presented to us seriously. So please go ahead. We have a minute for public, but I'll give you, I want to make sure you say your piece, okay?
Well, first off, good evening. I have to admit, I stand here.
Speak a little bit louder.
Sorry
Air
about
conditioning unit overhead.
And we're all very
Sorry,
old.
I have to admit, I stand here a little humbly before you all, Board of Trustees, as I'm still a young voter who's learning about the intricacies of her democracy in this country, and I hope that you all will indulge me tonight. I just wanted to ask this esteemed and experienced Board of Trustees, they could answer a question by a show of hands, who was interested in government when they were younger? I'm assuming everyone, almost, but I have to say that I did share that same passion as you all, but I stand here before you somewhat lost. As a lifelong resident of Rockland County, I cannot remain silent in the face of the ongoing violence and injustice inflicted upon the Palestinian people. But my elected officials are not willing to represent this public opinion. It's a discomforting truth that my family, like many others in this community, have contributed to this cycle of suffering through our tax dollars since before I was even born. But today I stand here feeling the weight of our collective complicity and the bloodshed that stains the hands of those who claim to represent us. Here in Rockland, where we are supposedly in support of inclusivity, we find ourselves attached to the violence through unjust laws like the anti-BDS legislation that stifles our voices and stifles the ability of organizations and community members in Nyack who wish to advocate for Palestine and do this work, but do not feel safe to do so. My kind of speech and activism are not welcome in Nyack. And this continues today as the board does not allow for this ceasefire resolution to be officially added to the agenda. Before this, I was at school. I'm back for the summer, but I've been diligently watching the meetings that are kindly posted on YouTube. And I'm saddened to see that this has not changed. True solidarity and genuine peace necessitates action beyond mere words. It demands a ceasefire resolution and an end to relentless bombardment of innocent lives. It requires us to take a stand. It requires us to divest from systems of oppression and violence that thrive in our investment. As a young person in this village, I'm disillusioned by the lack of support. I'm learning amidst a community that is complicit, a community that is content in ignoring the suffering of others, as long as it doesn't disrupt their comfort. I am beginning to lose my faith in local politics. But nonetheless, we refuse to be silenced. I call upon my fellow residents, upon the leader of this community to stand with me in solidarity and demand an end to violence to pass this ceasefire resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next up.
Rhea Matthews.
God, my sister.
That was just,
I'm
I, please forgive me for that confusion, but
That's okay.
I'll apologize to you directly about the fact that I did not realize you weren't going to make this. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm here today because heartbreakingly, there are even
Sorry.
more.
Just start. You have to speak up. We have an air conditioning unit.
Sorry,
above us.
can I start
We
over?
want to be able to hear you. Yeah, please
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay.
I will reset.
I'm here today because heartbreakingly, there are even more people that we are collectively mourning. I'm here today because 34,904 people have been killed in Gaza by Israel's ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. As the official death toll frighteningly nears 35,000, we must remember that the real death toll is likely much higher and does not count the tens of thousands of people who are missing and likely dead. When I spoke for the very first time at these meetings mere weeks ago, I spoke of 13,000 children that had been brutally murdered by Israel. But today, almost 16,000 children have been murdered by Israel. As time passes, Palestinian people in Gaza are being killed by the thousands, and the village of Nyack continues to remain silent. There has been no move to put this ceasefire resolution on the agenda, despite the ardent will of the people of Nyack. Silence is complicity. Silence from each individual and silence from this village enables the bigger machines of governments like the United States government to continue to fund and support this genocide. Nyack has the opportunity and the obligation to be a spanner in the works of the machine of war profiteering and to be a part of ending complicity in genocide. Do not let thousands more be killed before you say that that is wrong and that we won't stand for it. Thank you.
Next up.
Skylar Hamrick.
Hello.
Hello.
So I want to bring my concerns again around safety in our community here. At this point, you've all heard on more than one occasion from folks who have shown solidarity with Palestine in your village and faced harassment as a result. Not only that, they've been brave enough to come here and recount these events to you. Condemned these acts and offered private words of apology and support here in these meetings, but you really haven't done a single thing to address this. Tensions are obviously rising out there in the world, and I am seriously concerned that by doing and saying nothing publicly, you all very well may be further emboldening those who wish to harass and do harm. Why does it not concern you that in this moment in time, your village residents are not safe to show solidarity with Palestine? What about existing as a Palestinian here in your village? How could that possibly feel safe? Is that even safe? Don't you see what you're allowing to happen? People come and tell you these horrible experiences, and you say these instances are unacceptable, yet you do nothing. You say the village does not tolerate hate, yet you do nothing. When will you do something? What needs to happen? Why is that even a real question that needs to be asked? You have dismissed so many concerns by saying that this is not within your purview, that is not within, that you're here to serve the village of Nyack. But I'm wondering who in particular? And who are you still leaving all alone? Are you really going to continue to sit in those chairs and tell us that this is all not within your purview? That you, quote, don't think it's the place of the village of Nyack and the Board of Trustees to delve into such issues, which frankly, you don't have any standing, you don't have any impact. I realize that you may be opting to keep your own selves safer politically by continuing to do absolutely nothing to acknowledge and address these realities. But your silence and your inaction is effectively creating a community of unsafety. And that is unacceptable, and that is frankly disgraceful. Thank you.
Next up.
That's it. I didn't put my name. Sorry.
Andrea.
You said,
All right.
I didn't, sorry. Oh. Your name? Andrea DeVito. Andrea? Yeah.
Is there anybody else up back there?
Yeah, me
The two of you? Okay, then Andrea. and then we'll-
Me too. Your name? Mara. Mara. M-A. R-A-H. R-A. Oh, me first. Hi, I just want to follow up with the emails and just see what we can do about the situation of all the activity nightly in the marina parking lot. Just when I walked out here tonight, about 12 motorcycles came spilling out of there, speeding up Bird Street. They blew right through the stop sign and they're like ripping through the neighborhood. I don't know if it's another bike night tonight or what, but you know, you have people walking on the street, people with kids on the street. It's during the day, not just at night. Speed humps, speed bumps, you know, the rumble strips, something just to, it's that street. And I don't know if you saw on Facebook, a bunch of people were also writing that on Gedney, since they paved it in Piermont, that they're racing up and down those streets and blowing through those stop signs. So I just,
Have you been in Orangetown Town Board to talk about this?
I have not, and I can go there.
Because they manage the police. Everything you're talking
I
about
got that and I.
are
called
police
the
issues, and we've had that conversation before. They are police issues, driving through stop signs.
But what
We
about
don't even have the
rumble
authority to
strips
stop
put on the
somebody.
street?
Well, we've talked about that, and we will look at that. There's negatives to
We
the.
can do as a.
All right,
as
we
a
put the rumble
village.
strips on. Someone drives on the rumble strip. It makes a really loud noise. And are you gonna be back here to say, hey, people are now driving really fast on the rumble strips and making more loud noise? Because it's not necessarily gonna stop them to make it uncomfortable to drive through. It's just gonna add to the cacophony that you're dealing with. So it's not, they're not all easy. I'm just trying to, here's the thing. It is, I am 100% sympathetic, okay? But we do not, I literally, we could have our entire village administration and every enforcement officer we have standing on that corner, and if someone drives through a stop sign, we can't do anything. Besides call the police,
I know.
okay?
That's
So
all I
it's,
can do.
so the fact that you've been here 20 times in the
Mhm.
last 2 years and you've never been to a town board meeting?
I've been to a town board meeting and I spoke with Chief Butterworth there.
But you've been, when, I asked you at the beginning if you've been to a town board.
Sorry,
meeting.
I have been to a Orange Town Board meeting years ago when I wrote the
Okay.
first petition. I met with Chief Butterworth. I have not been back there. And I tried the traffic advisory and they told me that they don't.
Forget the traffic advisory. It's, what you are concerned about is the police enforcement of
Correct.
vehicle traffic laws. And I mean, listen, we reach out constantly to the police. They are responsive,
They're
not always
responsible, yeah.
immediately, but they are responsive to continued pressure on them to say, listen, we need you to do this. And I will say, that I don't mean, I'm not saying it disrespectfully. I'm saying that people are constantly coming to me, coming to the board to say, why aren't you doing this? And my answer is, do you even know who your town council member, board members are? Because they're the ones who control the police and can tell the police what to do. I can ask the police to do things, and me and Andy ask the police to do things all the time, but we can't tell them the
Right,
way that they can.
right.
And the extent to which it is frustrating, because I think the police force is very responsive to our needs. I would not necessarily say the same for the people that govern that police force, that they are responsive to the needs of the people here in the river villages.
Right.
So we will look at lighting. We looked at the lighting. We will
Yeah.
look at putting cameras in. We will look, and I would like to do that. I would like to actually do it.
The other
Let's get
thing,
hold on, let's get cameras. Let's actually, we should have cameras there anyway. They're not that expensive. We can mount them. We could probably talk to Angelo about putting them so that we can mount them on his property so that they be safe, you know, not easily attractive nuisance, not easily vandalized. So let's do that. I would like to price out the rumble strips. I agree with you that the measures that we can take, we will try to take. We are also looking at ways to try to get more people parking down there, which would make it less attractive as a people. And we will, if we find out that they're doing another bike night at the bar, we will notify OPD that we really do need people down here because the bikes are really doing a number
Yeah.
as they go around town.
the
So-
other thing I thought
yeah.
about those signs, when I spoke to Sergeant Palazzolo, he said he was gonna talk to you about the signs down there and changing the time from 6 to 10. He said that most of the other parking lots say 6 to 10, so that they can enforce no idling and no trespassing earlier rather than later.
Okay, the only problem is if we want people to park down there, we need to allow them to park there after 10 o'clock.
But that's parking, that.
Not idling,
that's
idling.
Idling and trespassing.
That's what?
They'll file the idling and trespassing.
But wouldn't
Like-
parking there be trespassing then?
No,
They're
he
parked
said
there?
it's not. It's a.
Okay, all right, I'll talk to him about that.
Yeah,
I have no,
I asked him that.
I just don't want to stop people from parking there if they want to
Yeah,
park there.
it's not, it's really, they can
Okay.
enforce the idling and the trespassing
Okay.
earlier. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Sorry, I'm hoping that, between OPD and us, that we come up with something that will help you.
I do
You've been
too.
coming before us in emails for a really long
Yeah,
time.
and I will go to Orangetown.
And just, you know, and we will, it's frustrating, it's beyond frustrating to be accountable for something but not responsible for it.
Yeah.
And we feel accountable for the experience people have as people are driving and doing, you know, these, you know, driving through stop signs and revving their engines, whatnot. We're accountable for it, but not responsible for it. We're accountable
No, I
for how
get
the
it,
police
I get it.
execute, but we're not responsible, and it's very frustrating. So, that's why I say, you know, that people, they can name all their village board members and they can't name anybody at the town board, but the town board has a lot of influence over the experience we have with the police.
Okay, but I'll go there,
Okay.
trust me.
Maybe I'll volunteer to go with you.
Yeah, I might go
Okay.
too, but you bring people that from your building also.
I would love to,
You have to have a
I mean,
delegation.
not her does.
not the building, from the,
Not
from
From the
there,
Claremont.
yeah.
You mean
The
Claremont.
Claremont, I mean, that's what I
And the
meant.
crazy part is they will reply to me and no one replies to you guys.
They don't copy us on the replies? That's interesting. I used to live there, so I know a lot of those people.
Yeah.
They're all very nice and we don't want it to be, it will also help if we
I'm
can ever
actually
get the
surprised because
restaurant
they
built
look
out.
out into it every single night, so it's shocking that no one ever says anything else. It's just Adele and Roger, really.
Yeah, well, they're the ones in charge.
You're right about that, if we could put like a restaurant.
We got a restaurant there, that would
I know.
solve a lot of those problems, because then the restaurant would drive a lot of that off. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you,
again.
everyone.
Thank you for
Have a
hanging
good
in there.
night. Thank you.
Go to the next person.
Mary,
I think she's going.
what's your name?
Belkisa,
Belkisa?
Well, we'll hear, you can both go. but-
Belkisa.
I,
Okay. I am not prepared. I didn't know I was gonna talk. But I've sat here for the past hour and a half and listened to you guys talk about parks and buildings and it doesn't matter. It's pointless. People in Palestine don't have any of this. They are real people like me and you. I don't understand the holdup. I'm literally just rambling like what I've been thinking the past hour. 11 people die an hour in Palestine, 240 people a day around this. So that's in the past hour and a half, we would all be dead if we were there right now. And I don't know what the holdup is. This is more important than anything else we've talked about tonight, and I'm sure in any other past meetings, so. You're just on your laptop the whole time, so that's good.
Who's the attorney?
Oh, my God. But that's it.
Thank you.
I mean, like just do something before there's nothing to be done. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody looks back on the Holocaust and they're like, it's terrible, it's horrendous, it's happening again right now. And everybody looks back and they say, if I could have stopped the Holocaust, if I could have stopped slavery, I would have. What you're doing right now is exactly what you would have done back then. So just think about that when you go home to your families, when other people have no families to go home to, or no home to go home to. And that's it.
Lara?
Hello. Yeah, I think Skylar brought this up, but, I think we said that, you guys, or the argument was you don't want to participate in foreign affairs and things of that nature. And, but I think it's funny because it's the anti-BDS laws in full effect in Rockland County. So essentially inherently you guys are. So I think like, by default, wouldn't you have to be part of a foreign issue? Like, won't you, the least that we're asking, I think, or at least I'm asking, is for it to be put on the agenda and voted for. I was one of the students at Columbia that was arrested for the encampments. And the difference between here and there is over there, we were fighting for divestment because at that point, the administration had already acknowledged that it was atrocious what they were seeing, but they just didn't want to put their money where their mouth is. It's not just Columbia, but all these other entities, all these other facilities, all these people, leaders, everybody has acknowledged it, and I think like the ceasefire within itself has acknowledged both sides, the hostages, it has acknowledged like the Palestinians that have passed away, and it's just really looking for peace, and I hope that's like something that we could all just consider, sit down and like, you know, see if it's not something, you know, if the resolution, if there's something that's not in there that like you particularly find interesting, I would appreciate that conversation, or at least being like, hey, I would want to like think of a different way to put this, or this is what would, this is what, or how this resolution has to look like this in order for us to pass it. But I think it's just been very difficult for me, and I'm sure with everybody else, because we've just been hitting a dead end. And I think, you know, all I'm really looking for at this point is just for some form of peace in this community, but also internationally in the county and in all forms and all levels. So I hope that's something that we can all, you know, talk about, consider, and sit down and have a conversation with civilly. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that closes public comment, I believe. Jack, anything?
That's it.
Okay. Do we have a need for an executive session? Okay, so no executive session necessary. I know that you feel frustrated sometimes when we don't respond. And you've been coming to the meetings for like 2-3 months now, and I respect your passion for the issue, and I appreciate you bringing it up. I do want to say this. Scott, you know, you have my mobile number. I sent it to you in the email that I sent you. You reference people suffering abuse, in people who live in Nyack suffering abuse, or in some way being, if you are a witness on something like that, I want you to call or text me, okay? And because if there are people, I have taken the position, and I think the board has taken the position, that we don't have a foreign policy and we're not taking symbolic stands on issues, because we do have the things that you thought that why are we spending all our time on those things? Those are the things that we do. We fix potholes and sidewalks, and we don't take symbolic stands, but I do take very seriously the responsibility of the well-being of the people in the community. I think the board does as well. So when you reference that people are not safe in the community, if there is something happening that there are people perhaps doing a protest, or perhaps that they're in some way not being safe, please feel free to reach out to me directly about it. You should obviously call the police first if there's something urgent, if there's some like actual violent issue going on. But if there are people acting, you know, irresponsibly in that regard, I do want you to let me know. As to the substantive issue that you all brought up, I think I addressed it, but and I'll be happy to talk to you about it when we meet privately. If you want to meet, be happy to meet with any of you privately, either individually or as a group. Anything anybody else wants to add?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to respond.
When we talk after, let's talk after. I don't want.
No, I'm sorry, I need to respond directly because
Okay.
I appreciate the offer. I'm glad to reach out, but you've had people come in here and stand there and describe these experiences to you.
Yes, describing incidents that have happened in the past that I can do nothing about. What you're not giving, you know, it's not.
Oh,
What
you're
am I supposed to do if
saying
something
if I
happened 2 weeks
call you
ago?
while it's happening?
While it's happening, something's happening, I want you to call me. I want you, if you're in Nyack and somebody is doing
And that's
something.
the only way that you can get involved.
How-
Have
what would-
some sort of public stance or denounce.
I
acts
happily
of
denounce,
hate the same way it's been
I have
done.
said, and you have repeated me saying that when we have denounced those incidents that you've described, we don't, I mean, you tell us this happened, we say, well, that's terrible, that shouldn't happen. And I'm telling you, and quite honestly, I don't know if there's many mayors in the county that would offer you that. If something like that's happening, you can reach out to me directly, and I will try to, if I am at all available to try to do something about it, I will do something about it, because I really think I take that matter seriously. If someone's actually threatening or being abusive or something like that, I think that's terrible, and I don't want that to happen, and I will either do something, or I will call the police if you haven't already called them, or whatever, and that's the best I
I
can do.
appreciate it.
But that's what I can do.
Appreciate your personal
And
interest.
that's quite honestly a lot more
Commented-
important than me taking a symbolic issue that will have no impact.
The board has commented publicly on acts of vandalism,
Yes,
yes,
within the village, yeah.
yes, publicly. You have publicly commented on these things. You have publicly denounced these acts. You have publicly said, we do not stand for hate.
Yes,
Why won't you do it?
acts in the village that take place in the village that we control.
Yes.
All right, let's not get started. We're done. Public comment's over. Skylar, I've already offered, I've given you my phone number and I've offered to meet with you outside the contours of the meeting. This meeting, I'm gonna be, we're done. We're not having public comments anymore.
I can't sit here.
I know you're not satisfied and there's nothing I can do to
It's not
satisfy.
that I'm not satisfied.
We're
it's
done.
just that
We're
I
done.
want
Can I get a motion to
take the
adjourn?
Opportunity to point out
Second,
the distinction
all in favor?
between when you take
Motion,
action.
meeting's adjourned. Thank you. We're done. Now you can talk to them.
Right now?
I'll be happy to talk to you right now,
Okay,
but the meeting is over.
that's fine. I really am not trying to like take over the meeting. It's just that I cannot, nor can you, personally